Welcome to NFL Nexus. Sometimes in the NFL, the biggest stories don't happen on a Sunday afternoon under the bright lights. They happen in the quiet moments after a devastating injury, on a phone call between two guys who share a very, very unwanted bond. Today, we're diving deep into one of those stories. It's about a single play that shattered a dream season, an unbelievable mentorship from a living legend who knows this exact pain, and a quarterback whose entire career is now at a massive crossroads. This is all about how one snap can change everything, and how the advice from a member of the dreaded Achilles Club might just be the key to one of the most incredible comeback stories we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, that just cuts right to it, doesn't it? It all went wrong. Think about that for a second. 1 minute, you are on top of the world. You're the quarterback of the hottest team in the entire league. You're playing at an MVP level, and your offense looks like an unstoppable freight train. You're the #1 seed. The next, you're on the cold, hard turf staring up at the stadium lights, and you just know, your season is over. And maybe, just maybe, your future is too. That's how fast it all changes in this league.
And this wasn't just some sprain or a tweaked muscle, nope. This was the big one. For Daniel Jones, this was the injury that makes every single player in the league just shudder. A torn right Achilles tendon. It wasn't just a season ender for him personally. It slammed the brakes on a historic 8-2 run for the Colts. It completely derailed what was looking like a real legitimate run at a Super Bowl. Now, for a quarterback, this injury it's a special kind of terror. The Achilles tendon, it's basically the massive rubber band that connects your calf muscle to your heel bone. It is the engine, the spring for everything you do. Every three-step drop, every time you plant that back foot to launch a deep ball, every single explosive move you make to escape a 300-pound defensive end, it all starts right there. When that snaps, you lose the absolute foundation of your entire physical game. It's devastating. So let's really get into it. What exactly happened on that fateful play? To truly grasp the long, unbelievably grueling road that is now stretched out in front of Daniel Jones, we first have to understand the mechanics of this injury and why, for a quarterback who is at the absolute peak of his game, it represents such a monumental challenge, not just physically, but mentally too. Okay, so let's break down the scene. It's December 7th, 2025. It's a huge divisional game against the Jaguars. First quarter, the stakes are sky high. And here's the part that's just absolutely terrifying. It was a non-contact injury. That is the boogeyman for every professional athlete. There was no defender that rolled up on his ankle, no crazy awkward tackle. It was a simple, routine drop back, a movement he has made, hundreds of thousands of times in his life since he was a kid. And his body just failed him. The tendon, under the incredible torque and pressure of an NFL quarterback's throwing motion, it just popped. An injury like that, it doesn't just damage the tissue. It plants a seed of doubt in your mind. It makes you question your own body. Can I trust it again? Will it hold up? That's how a simple drop back becomes a season-ending and maybe even career-altering event. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. As Daniel Jones was beginning that incredibly lonely and difficult process, facing surgery, months and months of painful rehab, a very unexpected ally reached out. A quarterback who had, just a short time ago, walked this exact same painful path. And he wasn't just offering sympathy. He was offering a detailed, cutting-edge blueprint for recovery, a genuine glimmer of hope. You heard that right. The man himself, the future first-ballot Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers, who knows this exact injury all too intimately, he personally picked up the phone and called Daniel Jones. And we're not talking about just a single, hey man, get well soon text. No, we're talking multiple calls. Rodgers called to offer very specific advice, to share the nitty-gritty details of his own experience, and to help Jones map out the incredibly long road back to the field. Think about how huge that is. This wasn't just a veteran being a nice guy. This was the pioneer of a revolutionary new recovery method, sharing his playbook, his secrets, with a peer who desperately needed it. And when you look at it, the parallels between their injuries are just uncanny. Rodgers tore his left Achilles with the Jets back in 2023, just a little over 2 years before Jones went down with his right. Okay, so different leg, different point in the season, but the fundamental challenge is exactly the same. But the context is what makes it so interesting. Rodgers' injury happened just 4 snaps into his much-hyped Jets career, a moment of unbelievable anticlimax. Jones' injury happened while he was riding high, leading a dominant Colts team. Both scenarios bring their own unique psychological battles, but what's undeniable is that Rodgers' recovery is the most recent, the most high-profile blueprint for exactly what Jones is about to go through. Now, the absolute key to Rodgers' incredibly fast recovery was this groundbreaking surgical procedure called the speed bridge repair. The best way to think about it is like an internal brace or scaffolding for the tendon. See, in a traditional repair, a surgeon would just stitch the two torn ends of the tendon back together. But with the speed bridge, they use a special kind of suture and anchors that create this tensioned bridge across the repair. This gives it unbelievable strength and stability right from day one after the surgery. And that is the whole ballgame right there. It allows an athlete to start a much more aggressive, much more accelerated rehab process instead of the old way of being stuck in a hard cast, completely non-weight bearing for weeks and weeks. So this is the path that Aaron Rodgers basically invented. The advanced surgery was the crucial first step. But step two, that aggressive, intensive rehab, that's where the real agonizing work began. And we're not talking about a couple hours a day with a physical therapist. No way. This is a 24/7 all-in commitment. We're talking meticulous nutrition, blood flow restriction therapy, sessions on anti-gravity treadmills, and just mentally grinding through pain barriers every single day. That intense approach is what allowed Rodgers to be back on a practice field throwing passes in a jaw-dropping 3 months. Now, because of when his injury happened, a same-season return is off the table for Jones. But what he has now is a clear 4-step blueprint to follow for a full return in 2026.
All right, so having a future Hall of Famer as your personal recovery guru, that's a massive advantage. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about that. But, and this is a big but, we have to be real here and look at the actual history of quarterbacks returning from a torn Achilles. And that history, well, it's pretty sobering. The data tells a much more complicated, a much more cautionary tale. It's a story filled with a lot of struggle and, frankly, diminished returns.
And that brings us to the central, multi-million-dollar question that's hanging over everything for Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. Even with the best advice on the planet, even with the most advanced surgery money can buy, is a return to that elite, top-of-the-league form, is it really a guarantee? All the evidence we have suggests that it is anything but a sure thing. The harsh reality is just staring us in the face when we look at the two most recent high-profile cases. Let's start with Rodgers himself, the guy writing the blueprint. He came back to the Jets in 2024, but the team was just not good. They struggled big time, finishing 5-12. And after just that one full season back, the Jets decided to move on. Then you have Kirk Cousins. He also tore his Achilles in 2023, then signed a massive $180 million deal with the Falcons. But then shockingly, he was benched for a rookie quarterback midway through his very first season in Atlanta. In both cases, we're talking about elite, Pro Bowl-level quarterbacks who, when they came back, were just not the same guys. And let's really dig into Rodgers' comeback season for a minute, because the raw stats here can fool you. You see nearly 3,900 passing yards and 28 touchdowns, and you think, hey, that's pretty good. But those numbers don't tell the whole story. Not even close. The team's 5-12 record is the first giant red flag. But for anyone who actually watched the games, it was obvious. The magic wasn't quite there. That signature mobility, that incredible, uncanny ability he had to escape a sure sack, extend a broken play with his legs, and then find an open receiver downfield, that was mostly gone. He was still a very good pocket passer, don't get me wrong, but the improvisational genius, the off-script brilliance that made him Aaron Rodgers had been seriously limited by that injury. The threat just wasn't the same. So, this brings us to the cold, hard business side of the sport. Because for the front office in Indianapolis, this isn't just about their quarterback's health. Oh no, this is a massive financial and strategic decision that is going to define the entire direction of their franchise for the next 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. The stakes could not possibly be higher. This quote from ESPN's Stephen Holder just nails the dilemma perfectly. This is a classic battle between your heart and your head. Your heart is screaming at you, you have to bring this guy back. He was playing at an MVP level, he led us to an 8-2 record and the top seed in the AFC. He was our guy. But then, your head, the logical side, steps in and says, whoa, hold on. Are we really about to risk a 9-figure contract on a player coming off one of the absolute worst injuries in all of sports? It's a tough spot to be in. And let's be crystal clear about the kind of money we're talking about here. Before he got hurt, Daniel Jones was playing his way into a contract that was going to be worth upwards of $30, maybe even $35 million a year. He was playing like a top 10 quarterback, and that's just the going rate. The multi-million-dollar question for the Colts GM is, does that price tag still make sense after the injury? Or do you have to build in all kinds of protections and incentives based on how well he recovered? Now, if that long-term deal just feels way too risky right now, the Colts do have another card to play, the franchise tag. You can think of it as a super expensive 1-year, prove-it contract that would keep Jones in Indy for the 2026 season.
This option gives the team a full year to see how he bounces back, to see if he can truly get back to being the player he was. But that safety net comes with a massive price. A projected, fully guaranteed $45 million for one single season. That's a huge chunk of your salary cap tied up in one big bet.
So here it is, the three doors for the Colts. Behind door A is the big leap of faith. Sign him to that massive long-term deal and bet the future of the franchise that he makes a full recovery and becomes that superstar again. Behind door B is the expensive middle path. Make that costly one-year bet with the franchise tag. And behind door C is the clean break. Let him test the waters of free agency. You save the money, you avoid the risk, but you also might lose the quarterback who looked like your answer for the next decade for absolutely nothing in return. That would send you right back to square one, looking for a quarterback all over again. None of these are easy choices. Each one is loaded with serious consequences. Okay, so where does all of this leave us? Let's try to bring all these pieces together. The devastating injury, the legendary mentor, the scary history, and the giant contract dilemma. And let's look at the actual road ahead for Daniel Jones. What does the timeline really look like for his recovery, his contract, and his eventual, hopefully triumphant, return to the football field?
This right here, this is the map for the next year of his entire life. Right now, this winter, it's all about that lonely, monotonous, painful grind of rehab. It's about rebuilding that strength and flexibility literally from scratch. Then, as we get into the spring, the business side is going to take over. Those contract negotiations, one way or another, will have to get resolved. But the big, shining goal on the horizon, the date circled on the calendar, is the start of training camp this summer. That's the moment of truth. That's when he'll have to test that surgically repaired tendon against a live pass rush for the first time. All of it setting the stage for his comeback season next fall, where every single throw, every scramble, every single snap will be put under an intense microscope.
When you boil it all down, this is the central drama of this whole story. It's these two incredibly powerful, opposing forces pulling at Daniel Jones's future. On one side, you've got this unique, unbelievable advantage of having a legend's personal playbook for recovery and a team that, by all accounts, desperately wants him back and truly believes in him. But on the other side is the daunting, unavoidable historical evidence of what this specific injury so often does to the careers of even the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game.
And that, right there, is where we leave it. Daniel Jones has the modern blueprint for recovery. He has a direct line to the man who literally wrote it. And he's got the incredible motivation of leading a team that was right there on the brink of true greatness. But he is fighting against a tough and pretty unforgiving history. So the question is, can he be the guy? Can he be the one to finally defy the odds and prove to everyone that a torn Achilles is no longer a career death sentence for an NFL quarterback? We're all going to have to wait until next season to find out. So what do you think? Will Daniel Jones come all the way back and lead the Colts to the top of the AFC once again? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, do us a huge favor and subscribe to NFL Nexus, like this video, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss our next breakdown. You can also help support the channel by checking out our coloring books. They're actually perfect for kids, grandkids, and adults too. You can find them using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks so much for watching.